Could you imagine the chaos when a quiet morning talk show erupts into pure live TV drama? The kind of moment that leaves cameras shaking and producers scrambling behind the scenes? This is that story. The studio lights were harsh, gleaming off the polished floor, casting long reflections as the audience clapped politely. The usual cheerful chatter hummed through the air, but behind the smiles, tension was simmering. Leanne Morgan adjusted her mic discreetly, her hands trembling slightly, though her face carried the practiced calm of a veteran comedian. Joy Behar's laughter rang a little too loud, slicing through the comfort zone of the set, teasing, poking. The camera swung to Leanne as she shared a story about her recent tour. Her voice was warm, drawing viewers in, painting vivid pictures of crowded theaters, laughter, and late-night drives back to the motel. "And then," Leanne said, chuckling softly, "I realized I'd worn 2 different shoes all day. The audience didn't even notice until I pointed it out myself." The studio laughed, light, easy, but Joy's interjection cut sharper than usual. "You're telling us you didn't even notice?" Joy asked, leaning forward with a grin that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Isn't that a little careless?" The tone carried a subtle edge, playful but probing. The camera caught Leanne's micro-expression, the slight tightening of her jaw, the blink that tried to reset her composure. Leanne smiled, measured. "Or maybe," she countered softly, "it's about focusing on what really matters, making people laugh, not stressing over perfection." Her hand gestured subtly, almost dismissive, though graceful, as if she were willing to meet the tension without escalating it. The audience's laughter paused briefly, a murmur of surprise. Joy tilted her head, the studio lights catching the slight glint in her eye, and leaned closer. "But don't you think that in this industry, attention to detail is everything? People notice the small things, Leanne. That's what sets someone apart." Leanne's lips pressed together, then parted into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her internal monologue ran faster than any script. "Stay calm, stay professional. Don't let this spiral." She adjusted her seating, tilting slightly toward the mic. "I suppose," she said carefully, "but sometimes obsessing over tiny details can steal the joy of the moment. I'd rather people remember the laughter than the shoes." The audience chuckled, but the tension in the room thickened. Behind the cameras, producers exchanged sharp glances. The control room hummed, the click of buttons and murmured instructions barely audible over the live feed. The teleprompter blinked impatiently, demanding the show move forward, but the emotional undercurrent held the room hostage. Joy's smile hardened, the laughter gone. "I just think sometimes you have to face criticism head-on," she said, her tone now more pointed, a subtle accusation weaving through the words. "Even in comedy, you can't ignore the things that matter to your reputation." Leanne's eyes flicked briefly to the audience, noting the awkward shuffling and sideways glances. Her voice softened, but the edge was unmistakable. "I respect that truly, but there's a difference between criticism that helps you grow and criticism that tries to control how you enjoy your craft. I think my audience will forgive me a mismatched shoe if I make them laugh." A beat of silence. The studio cameras switched angles, capturing the tense stillness. The laughter track tried to fill the gap, but it felt hollow. The producers whispered urgently off-screen, readying cues to cut to commercial. But the conflict had already reached a critical point. Joy leaned back, arms crossing, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Well," she said slowly, deliberately, "we'll see if they really forgive you. Or if this becomes one of those moments people replay online, wondering why a comedian can't even manage her shoes." The comment landed like a thrown gauntlet. Leanne's jaw tightened, but her eyes flared with a mix of disbelief and restrained fury. Her fingers tapped lightly against the table, the subtle rhythm signaling her mounting frustration. She took a deep breath, the camera capturing every micro-expression. The audience watched, caught between anticipation and discomfort. And then, a single quiet word escaped her, almost unheard over the hum of the set. Enough. The word hung in the air, heavier than any shouted insult. The camera zoomed in slowly on Leanne, her face steady but eyes blazing. The live audience leaned forward instinctively, sensing the tipping point. Joy's smirk faltered, just slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing her features. Leanne rose gracefully, chair scraping softly against the polished floor. "I came here to talk about comedy," she said, her voice clear, resonant. "Not to debate control or judgment. I hope you understand that." The camera cut to the audience, a ripple of murmurs spreading like a wave, some cheering, some gasping. She walked toward the exit, heels clicking against the studio floor with deliberate precision. The camera followed, lingering on the set that now felt charged, electric. The live audience was stunned into silence, the energy caught in suspended disbelief. Behind the scenes, producers whispered furiously, signaling for the feed to cut. But it was too late. The moment had already been immortalized in tension, in raw emotion, in live television unpredictability. As Leanne reached the doorway, she paused, briefly glancing back. Her eyes met Joy's one last time, a mix of defiance, dignity, and unspoken challenge. The camera held, capturing the full breadth of the clash, before she disappeared off-screen. The studio lights seemed dimmer now, the laughter a distant echo, as the reality of a live TV meltdown settled over everyone watching. Can you imagine the tension when a single live TV moment doesn't just shock the studio, but rattles everyone behind the scenes too? When silence replaces laughter, and cameras can't capture all the emotion simmering off-screen? This is exactly that moment. Backstage, the hum of monitors and muted chatter collided with sharp whispers of concern. The producers were pacing, phones pressed to ears, voices clipped and urgent. "Did she just walk off?" one producer hissed, barely audible over the clatter of equipment. Another shook their head, frantically toggling camera feeds, trying to regain control of the broadcast. Leanne sat in the small dressing room just beyond the studio, her chest rising and falling with deliberate, slow breaths. Her hands clutched the strap of her purse, fingers tightening and relaxing rhythmically. The reflection in the mirror revealed more than just a composed face. It showed a storm of suppressed anger, disbelief, and a stubborn streak of professional pride. "You okay, Leanne?" asked her manager, leaning against the doorframe. His voice was gentle but tinged with worry. "Do you want me to—" "No," she interrupted, her voice steady but firm. "I'm okay. I can't go back there. Not like that. Not after how she—" She stopped, shaking her head slightly. "It's not about me losing my cool. It's about standing up for what matters." Outside, the studio cameras continued to roll, capturing the awkward pause of the live audience. Joy Behar, now momentarily stunned, tried to regain control. Her hand gestured toward the cameras as if signaling normalcy, her smile tight, a little forced. "Well, folks, let's take a quick break while we, get things back on track." The audience shifted uneasily in their seats. Some whispered to neighbors, some laughed nervously, unsure how to react. The sound of chairs scraping echoed faintly, blending with the low hum of the studio lights. The teleprompter scrolled impatiently, expecting a return to banter, but the momentum had already fractured. In the control room, producers exchanged worried glances. "Cut to commercial!" one shouted, fingers flying over the console. But even as the commercial graphic flashed, the tension lingered. The cameras captured Joy muttering under her breath, pacing slightly, glancing toward the empty spot at the table. Her co-hosts tried to fill the space with forced jokes, but the natural flow of conversation had evaporated. Leanne's phone buzzed on the dressing table. She ignored it at first, letting the silence settle, the echo of footsteps and distant laughter filling the small room. Finally, she picked up, her voice calm but measured. "Hello? Leanne, it's Laura from the network," said the voice on the other end. There was a strain of urgency beneath the professional tone. we need you to come back on. The audience is confused, and the ratings, we need you to—" "No," Leanne said firmly, cutting her off. "I came on that stage to share stories, to connect, to make people laugh. Not to be cornered or belittled, not live, not in front of cameras, not like that. I'm not going back." There was a pause. The line hummed with tension. "Leanne, please, it's live television. They'll spin this, you know. Just a few more minutes, and then we can move forward." Leanne's eyes narrowed slightly, her gaze drifting to the reflection of the stage lights in the dressing room mirror. "Spin this? No one will spin it the way I do. I don't answer to anyone's interpretation of my dignity. I'm done." Meanwhile, back in the studio, Joy took a deep breath, leaning toward the camera as if to maintain connection with viewers. "Well, folks, sometimes live television surprises even us. We'll be right back after this short break." Her smile was tight, a practiced mask hiding frustration, embarrassment, and maybe a touch of regret. The break gave the crew a moment to scramble, whispers and rapid movements filling the control room. Camera operators adjusted angles, switching to wide shots of the empty chair, capturing the vacuum left behind. The live feed continued to record, immortalizing the awkward tension, the half-formed jokes, the forced composure of co-hosts struggling to fill the void. In her dressing room, Leanne leaned back, letting the small silence wash over her. The adrenaline from walking off the stage still pulsed through her veins. The phone buzzed again, a reminder of the chaos she'd left behind. But instead of picking it up immediately, she stared at the reflection in the mirror. Her own eyes stared back, fierce and unapologetic. "This is who I am. This is what I stand for." Minutes stretched, the live broadcast continuing awkwardly. Back on air, Joy's voice rose slightly, attempting to recover. "So, comedy is funny, right?" she asked, laughing nervously. The co-hosts chuckled hesitantly, but it sounded hollow. The audience laughed too, but the energy was fractured, uncomfortable. Backstage, Leanne's manager glanced at her, concern clear in his eyes. "Leanne, maybe we should—" "No," she said again, voice firmer. "I've said my piece by leaving. That's enough for now. Let them feel the impact. Let them understand that sometimes respect is more important than fitting into someone else's expectation of the show." The studio cameras lingered on the empty chair as the commercial break ended. The audience was restless, murmuring, some recording on phones, some shaking their heads in disbelief. When the show returned, the air was heavy with unspoken tension. Joy tried to resume the conversation, but the absence of Leanne left every joke incomplete, every comment half-formed. The energy that had once filled the studio had evaporated, replaced by the silent weight of the confrontation. Back in the dressing room, Leanne's phone buzzed again. She finally picked it up, voice calm, eyes steady. "Yes? Leanne, it's the network again. People are talking. Clips are going viral already," said the voice, hesitation creeping in. "The public, they're on your side, actually. They're impressed." Leanne's lips curved slightly into a faint, almost ironic smile. "Impressed," she echoed. "Good. Let them be impressed by standing up for themselves. Let them see that dignity isn't negotiable." She hung up, the silence returning. But this time, it was different. Not tense, not anxious, but filled with quiet resolve. As the live feed continued, the empty chair on stage became a symbol. Every camera angle lingered, capturing the absence, the tension, and the power of a single choice in front of millions of viewers. Backstage, whispers continued, but one truth remained. Leanne had taken control of the narrative, not through words shouted or arguments won, but through the quiet, potent act of walking away.